Hi, Fred. I'm Sarah from The Upcoming. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us.
Thank
Uh,
you.
Maybe for people who don't know much about your film, La Femme, I'm not going to say it in French. I'm just going to say La Femme. No, that
La
is in
mi
French. I'm getting it all mixed up.
French.
Start again. The Femme, and the French name is. Yeah, you could give us a brief introduction. What's this film all about? What can people expect if they come watch it?
La mif is a slang word in French. It means the femme. And you know how the slang French is like reverse words. So family, la mif, la mifa, la mif. So that's the word that the girls use. Girls, meaning the girls I worked with, maybe ironically to qualify their life in a foster home, um, which is some sort of substitute for a family, trying to be, but it's not really. And so I think they really use it. They really actually use it in their everyday life in a foster home. Um, and I really believe it's ironic because my point of view with this story is to say that actually it could never replace a functional family. Functional in the sense that, of course, not all families are functional, but I believe that institutions taking care, taking under their protection children sometimes do worse than families, even unfunctional families would do.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a series of portraits of women, girls, teenagers who live together in a foster home like a family. And but these girls, most of them are coming from a care background, and they are not actresses, and so they are playing a role based on their reality, but it's a role, it's fiction. Yeah.
And what sparked the idea for the film, and what made you want to go in and create this very sort of like realistic, authentic portrait of what life is like in one of these homes? Was it something that came from your personal experience or someone you knew? Like, what was the spark to get you into that realm?
It's a mix of so many things. First of all, yeah, I have a background as a social worker, and I was always very critical, or I was questioning the whole sense of even doing social work. I don't think it should be a job. I believe we should all be social workers in our everyday life, and so people would not need those institutions to control everything. Uh, that's the first thing. I was always quite disappointed when I was working because there was so much bureaucracy and there was such little relationship. Um, the focus was always on protection and not enough on how do we help kids to really gain more self-confidence, for instance, and how do we provide that lack of love that they need. These are not the questions institutions ask themselves first. What they ask themselves first is how do we protect them, and how do we protect ourselves from any kind of trouble we could have if there is sexuality, if there are things like this happening inside the institution. So it came from my personal background. Then the sparkle came from me in my everyday life after the Me Too movement. So many women told me that they have been abused sexually by their father, by their uncle, by their grandfather. And it really happened to me. They told me, and I was so shocked, and I was surprised, and I was like, and that happened in I don't know, maybe 2 years, and I'm telling you, 5 or 6 women told me, friends, people I know, and I was like, okay, that's a taboo because we really don't know how many people actually are victims, and it's almost impossible to know because people don't talk. And so they told me, I gathered these women and they told me their stories. We got together, we met, and at first I wanted to work with them, but it was really too difficult for them, too sensitive, too emotional. So I said, okay, I have their stories. They told me details, things that I would never expect. And the story of Laura, her daughter, etc., comes from one of them telling me that she was going on a holiday every summer. And one day she really took she talked to her parents and she said, look, I don't want to go back to my grandparents because my grandfather does that. And they ignored it. They sent her back on a holiday the next year to the grandfather, like nothing was said, because it was too painful to listen, I believe. I don't want to defend them, but there must be an explanation. And so this story is true, and I thought I want to tell this story, but I'm not going to work with them. How can I tell that story? And I thought that I needed to find an arena, a place where I could, develop all kinds of stories as such. So that's how it started, and then of course meeting the girls in the foster home. I called this place where I used to work when I was a student more than 20 years ago, and Claudia, who was my boss at that time, said, okay, we still were in touch, she was following my career, my films, and she trusted me, so she said, okay, let's do it. But she was about to retire. And I said, it's great, then you can really play your own role. We will have no problems, your own role, meaning a role close to who you are, because this is not her story. And so she opened the doors to this place, and we started working. Working started with interviews I made of each of the girls. And based on what they told me, the main question was, what is your drama? Please tell me, And they all told me different stories, and I decided that I would build their characters based on what they said, but the deal was that nothing would come from their real life. It would be all made up by myself or with them. And then we did improvisation workshops. I was going there a lot to the place with my family, having dinner with them, being in touch, building the relationship, making sure they trust me, and working on improvisation, there's a lot of details I can give you about these workshops, but the main thing is to teach them to act without acting, being themselves as much as they can. So use your own language, never pretend to be an actress. Have fun, enjoy it. All these things that you do when you teach. Basically, to make it short. Trying to make it short. It's not easy for me because I'm really in love with this project.
Yeah, I can imagine. And were there, particularly challenging moments on set in that sense? Because in some ways it is harder to capture something very naturalistic rather than sticking to a script and working with professional actors. So, and it works very well, and it does look very organic and very fluid. But were there moments that that kind of process made things difficult, and also the kind of emotional intensity, of some of those scenes, which might have been challenging both for the women and for you filming.
Yeah. First of all, I'm not a good writer, so I would never be able to write dialogues for them the way they would deliver them on the set when we improvise. Never. I trust that. This is my vision of my cinema, which is based on improvisation. And of course, I'm a good writer in the sense that I know how to tell a story, but I'm not good at writing dialogues. And so, or maybe I am, but I don't even want to try because that's my method. And I believe they use, using their own language is something that I can't do. I can't find the words the way they do. I can't feel the things the way they feel. So I really believe that's what we need to do. And about the emotion, it was very emotional, of course, because sometimes they were confused. What is the reality? What is my role? But we always clarified. And I had a lot of help from the social workers who really are social workers, and from the crew, and also from Claudia, because Claudia was really, still is now, in the middle of everything. She knew these girls because she worked with them. With Cassia, it's a story I like to say. Maybe Stefan is tired of hearing that, but it's a story I really like to say because it really summarize everything. It's the last day of shooting the film. It's a wrap. We're happy. Everybody's crying because it was a lot of emotion. It's the scene between Laura and Novinia talking, when Laura, reveals her secret. I mean, not the secret, but that her daughter killed herself. And it's a very long take we did. The scene is very short, but the take is really long. Novinia is talking about her father, her made-up father, who left without a word, and so on. And she's crying, and she became an actress, at the end, because she gained confidence. And in the end, we say cut, finished, movie's over. And I could tell she was very emotional, and I said, "How do you feel?" And Cassia, playing Novinia, said, "Very proud of myself." And Claudia, who knows her for a long time because she worked with her, said, "This is the first time I hear Cassia say anything like that she's proud of doing something. I've never heard her say that." So this, to me, is what gives the whole sense to this work. Of course, making a good film is my job. I really want to improve myself, and of course, I want to make great films, but I also want to help them grow, help them gain a little bit more confidence. And so Claudia, she was always there to help, to talk to them, to, make sure we're okay. Sometimes we have to cut a scene and, and talk and make sure everybody's okay, because it was very emotional. But the deal was the deal from the beginning. Nothing from your private life, personal life, will be in the film, unless you want to, and then you tell me and we talk about it. We can do it.
And I was really interested in the way the film was structured. I thought that was quite unique, kind of returning to these same scenes multiple times, but then bringing in new bits of information, new perspectives, new bits of context. So I was wondering, you know, where that came from and what effect you think that had, and also how you used the score, because the music, I feel, is very integral. Sometimes it's quite kind of at odds with what's happening, and sometimes, you know, it really adds to the emotional feeling. So, you know, how you use
Yeah.
these two effects.
About the edit, the script was written like this. I really wanted to be non-linear, and because in a series of portraits, it was for me the best way to mix them. But then, when we edited the film, I worked with one editor and another editor for like 6 months, and then we had a film edited, first draft, and we screened it to you know, like a screen test to, you know, friends, producers, and so on. And the film was linear because I didn't have the nerves to the confidence maybe to try what I written in the script. And the film was okay. Everybody was like, wow, this is strong, you know, and I was happy, but I thought, you know, let me try this, because that was my first idea. And that took me 4 other months to redo everything on my own without an editor, because I love editing, and I needed to try things. I needed to get up at night and go in my studio and try things, you know. This is how I did it. And I watched films that are non-linear to inspire myself. Of course, all the Inarritu films, you know, and actually a lot of films are non-linear if you search for them. And, you know, that helped me believe I could do it. About the music, I thought first I'm really tired of music that are supporting the emotion too much. You know, sound design, I can't stand it anymore. It's everywhere, everywhere. And it's too much for me. So I thought no music at first. And then I thought maybe if I bring, you know, some Bach classical piano or cello, then it's also talking about this backwards system. So it's music from the past, and I believe the system is really going backwards. This is also why I've written this line that Laura is saying at one point. You know, the director is changing the bed sheets like they used to do the nuns, the sisters, nuns before. Mm. And I thought the music was really in expressing this. Yeah. Mm. And I wanted to have like interludes, but not music that's controlling the emotion or influencing the emotion too much. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When I was watching it, it really did make me think also of another film that, you know, had incredible critical acclaim last year, Rocks by Sarah Gavron. And I wondered if you thought that, you know, is there perhaps more and more films coming through and more airtime given to female-driven stories and delving into female relationships and female experiences in a way that we perhaps didn't see in the past, and why it might be important for you know, more of these representations to be seen on screen?
Sorry?
Why it might be important to authentically portray female experience on screen in a way that perhaps we didn't see before.
Yeah, it's obvious to me, but I hope that really someday that will not be an issue. I'm really tired of listening to people wanting to make films about women, wanting to make films about Black people or gay or whatever. I hope that one day that will not be an issue, really. But it was, yeah, of course it was, because because there's a need. But I hope that this participates to the change, that it's just normal, you know, it's just a movie, stories. Yeah, it's about women. Who cares? Really, don't you think?
Well, yeah, it's funny. In some ways it seems obvious, and then in other ways, yeah, why is it still kind of rare for you know, a film to be dominated by female characters and not
Yeah, yeah.
so, but and what was I going to say? And also, you know, what do you think the impact of having films that kind of delve into, like you're talking about, the care system? What is the role of social workers? And do you feel that it's something that is improving? Do you have optimism for the future, or is it something that's still very broken? But perhaps by having films like this, you can start a conversation about what needs to change.
Yeah. I'm not sure about what needs to change. It's very difficult, you know, it's very complex. I believe that, you know, when I was in school as a social worker, they constantly talked about the professional distance. And to me, it was the exact opposite of what I wanted to do. I wanted to be close to people. And it was a big dilemma for me. And so that's the message that I want to deliver with the movie. I'm not going to of course, we need protection. Of course, we need laws. We need to be careful. But I think it's very dangerous to always uh, uh, put the focus on protection. And I think it's more interesting, always more interesting, to focus on creativity, on what can we do to help them, you know, have more confidence in themselves. I think this is obvious. This is my point of view. It's always been my priority, and I'm trying to show, you know, that we should not forget that it's more important to be with them, and maybe to love them, because that's what they need. What is lacking more in their life? Is it protection or is it love? It's always, and every person is different. So maybe we have to adapt ourselves to a system. Is difficult to adapt when there is so much bureaucracy. So yeah, more. My message would be, social workers need to be more creative. Because I'm a social worker. I'm a filmmaker, but today, with this film and the film I made before, Tapis Rouge, it's the same kind of project with kids from a suburb in Lausanne. My first fiction film. It was the same idea. For a long time, I denied my social worker background because I wanted to be a filmmaker. You know, it's good to be a filmmaker for your ego. And then when I made Tapis Rouge, about 8 years ago, I think, I realized that I'm going to really no, assumer. Stéphane, assumer. He's not. He's sleeping. You're sleeping. Anyway, I'm going to
Embrace your.
embrace. Yes, thank you. That's the word. Embrace my social worker background, and say, okay, you know, I'm not only a filmmaker, I'm also a social worker, and this is the kind of social work I do, based on creativity and not on punishment, on pressure, on you know, interdiction, for, you know, rules, laws. No, creativity is way better than anything else, I believe.
And finally, because I think I'm already over my time, but you know, what did it mean to you to have your film screening as part of Berlinale, and obviously, you know, only online for this part, but hopefully in person in June. So, you know, are you also looking forward to that as well?
Will you be there?
Don't know, maybe.
uh, no, because it's for me, it's, you know, to be really honest, I've been waiting for this for a long time, you know, trying to make films and improving myself. And I finally found my style really, and a technique that I want to develop more. And it was very, very important for me to be in Berlinale, of course. It's something I've been aiming for.
Mhm.
Yeah. And so, and I'm really happy for the girls. But as much as I do, the girls need an audience. Because right now they are not understanding what's happening. You know, they, not all of them, some of them, they don't even know what Berlinale means, you know. So to be there, to see, you know, the audience enjoying the film, you know, this is such, and to me too, this is something that I really missed. So it's very frustrating, but also amazing having an award and everything. It's weird. It's a weird moment, you know, for everybody. It's difficult,
Yeah.
but let's hope. That's all we can do. Huh? Yeah.
And do you know what you'll do for your next film?
I have a lot of ideas. I just had an idea yesterday, something working with migrants. I have a friend who works in the Habesha community, Ethiopian, Eritrean. She is Ethiopian, and she's helping them integrate in the Swiss society and so on. And they're doing a lot of great things, but some of them, sometimes they have to go back to their country. Well, they sent them back on a plane, and I think I'm going to go there soon because I know them. Actually, I know them very well because I'm part of the board. I'm a board member of this association. So I would like to do a film with them. Same kind of work, improv, and try to understand the Horn of Africa conflict through their stories here in Geneva, instead of going there and trying to understanding there. So that's the project I have. I really like it.
Yeah, well, can't wait to see that as well. I think I'm out of time, but thank you so much for sharing all that with us. And, you know, congratulations on having a film part of Berlinale. Hopefully the girls will get to walk down a red carpet at some point in June, and get the appreciation they deserve from a real life audience.
Yeah.
Lovely to speak to you, Fred. Thank you so much.